All right.
All right, we are live. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our regional franchise marketing call. There we go. Regional franchise marketing call for Monday, April 1st. I've got no April Fool's jokes ready to go, although I did see Google pulled a good one. They announced at midnight last night that YouTube would be shutting down, that they'd be running a contest, and one video would run until 2013, and the winner would get $50 a year or something. They got a whole bunch of people complaining and putting negative comments on a posting, and so that's the only one I've heard of this morning. Who we got here? We got Mark, Rick, Frank, Todd, Tim, Alan, and myself at this point. Good to see Jeffrey's survived his surgery nicely, and he's in the healing process, recording this call so that Jeffrey can listen. He will be under the affluence of alcohol or some sort of drug killer, painkiller program. So let's try and garble our voices as much as we can for Jeffrey today. And speak like this every so often so that he can actually hear him in normal voices. Hey, Jeffrey, glad you made it through, man. We need you. We need you. All right, so let's pull up the agenda for today. And where are we down here? I got too many files open. Can't find them all. There we go. Regional marketing for April. 4 items on the list for this call. Update on the franchise marketing process. What's been working, what hasn't been working, starting with Mr. Mark Stevens. Then accountability. Discussion around the new profit hacks process or some version thereof to implement. The EWJ launch and an update on that, plus a discussion on some items that we need to talk about. And then the Wednesday call process to support new members. I hadn't got feedback from most of you on that, and I wanted to make a decision, so I need to get feedback from you on that. Even though that's a chapter-related thing and not a franchise marketing thing, I'm hoping you guys will permit the discussion on that to get in there. Anything else you want on the agenda today relating to franchise marketing, chapter host marketing at all from anyone? Just turn on your camera or sing out, as the case may be. Okay, seeing none, then let's jump to update on franchise marketing. Reminder for training and GoToMeeting, this is going to be really
Hey
important when
Tom,
you chat. There we go, Todd. Hey.
Tom, can I jump in? I couldn't get my camera to turn on.
Okay, you bet.
All right. It said it was being used by another application, which I've never seen before. But anyway, I may be cameraless for this meeting. But I wanted to just make sure. I think we'll be reviewing my question in Mark's update. But obviously, Mark's showing some great results, and I just wanted to make sure we review what are the things that he's been doing in following the system that have been working, so that others of us that are trying to follow the system are making sure that we're not missing anything, or there's other things we might be able to be doing to be as successful as he has been.
Amen, sister. Yep, that'll be the
Okay.
entire focus of that discussion, so we
Cool.
will not miss that, I promise you.
Great.
Anything else, Todd?
No, that was it. Thanks.
Okay, cool. All right, so then let's start with franchise marketing. And as I was saying, for GoToMeetings, it's going to be really important that you have your camera system working so that your prospects get to know you by your faces. The whole purpose of using video conferencing is for them to see you and hear you, not just hear you. We could use phone lines for that as far as that goes. That's not going to build more trust and higher conversion rates. So I'm going to start doing the same thing. Whenever we have our calls, let's make sure that you're activating your camera and that you're using that for your process. And since he's got such stunning results, first up on franchise marketing today is going to be Mark.
Hey, there we go. My camera's working this morning.
Like a charm.
Yeah. Yeah, where do you want me to start, Tom?
Well, I think most of the guys probably want to know, how is it that you're generating more leads than all the rest of them added up. And in fact, more opt-ins in the last 2 weeks than all the rest of them added up in the last 3 months. That would be my question, Mark.
Okay.
And since I already asked you that question and you gave me the answer that I was hoping for, I'd love you to share it with them now, too.
All right, let me preface this all by saying first that this is the second time I've tried this. The first time I got very little response. Um, but the biggest difference is the number of people and the number of actual messages that I sent out, or as Mike calls them, lead generation emails. I just been working really hard to steadily build my LinkedIn connections. In fact, since the last time we had a call, I've added 400 more. A lot of those aren't targeted, but where I made my biggest advance, I guess, is in the targeted market. And all I've done is just follow what Mike has taught me and basically go into a group, mine that group specifically with using keywords like golf, business golf, entrepreneur, mastermind, those kinds of things, and then send a link connection request to those folks. Try to drive them to our Back Nine Board of Advisors group and give them the 321 and 21 days as a gift, the webinar. Amazingly enough, there really haven't been that many people, or at least I haven't gotten a lot of emails of people signing up for the webinar. Because a lot of the people that I'm running into have well over 500 contacts, and I guess they don't need them. I don't know. But
Well,
then
no,
what
I can tell you what that is because it
okay,
happens all the time,
okay,
and that is when you offer a gift, just the offering of the gift scores you points,
okay, okay.
right? You don't have. I mean, I get people connecting with me all the time that offer me a response to my offer of a gift, and some of them I take them up on it, and some of them I don't. And it doesn't mean I don't like them or I'm not interested in them. I just, I'm busy. They're busy. You're going to do priorities. But I can tell you, at least for me, everyone who responds back and sends me something like a gift of some sort, I flag them. I flag them in my system, and
Mm-hmm.
the chances of me doing business with them go up. And obviously, that's part of what's happening in your situation is they're appreciating it regardless of whether they're opting in to the Back Nine group or watching the 321 video, because the results are there. Just to help them out, because I want to break this down in a moment so that everyone really gets what you just said, because you said a bunch of things there all at once. But in terms of total results right now, total connections,
1,400.
total connections, and just to remind everyone, when you started with Back Nine, how many did you have?
19.
When you started with Back Nine, and we're not talking 1900, we're
No,
talking
one
19
nine.
connections.
As we say in artillery community, one niner.
One niner,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And how many of the 10 cities, how many of the 10 targeted cities have you been connecting with
Well,
groups in?
all the way from 1 to 500 and something. I think I've got 6 of my 10.
So
So the smaller the
six.
population, the
Yep.
smaller the number of groups, and the smaller of total membership in each group.
No, sorry, that's a separate question. Of the
Okay,
10 cities, you got 10 cities on your targeted list. How
right?
many of those 10 have you attempted any connecting with LinkedIn on so far?
All of them.
Right. And that's what I was meaning. So
Okay.
all 10 of the top 10 cities. So one of the first things is Mark has worked all 10 of his cities that he's got on his top 10 list. And then in connecting with the groups, right? You've
Mm-hmm.
searched relevant groups for business, entrepreneurs, right?
Golf,
Business and entrepreneurs and golf.
right?
And then in those profiles, once you join the group, you then search for, if it's the first two, business and entrepreneurs, you search for golf
Mm-hmm.
in the profile,
Mm-hmm.
right? What
Right.
do you search for if it's a golf group? I'm just curious. Business?
Cities.
Oh, cities.
So if
Okay.
it's a golf group, for instance, if I want to get some people in Omaha, I'll put in Omaha, or Lincoln, Nebraska, or Des Moines, Iowa, or St. Louis, or Kansas City, those kinds of things.
Love
So
it.
if it's a
Love
golf
it.
group, I
So
do it by
those
city.
so those of you that are in Linked Golfers, which is the largest business golfer group on the web, which should be all of us, in that group, for example, you could just search Omaha.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Beautiful. And then the connection you're using is exactly off the website that Mike's approach, correct?
Correct.
And the follow-up email is exactly the same. And then what triggered a recent slate of responses was a separate message you put together for all the people that had connected with you.
Yeah, actually, Mike put that together. I stole
Okay,
it from Mike.
great.
I know I'm getting some credit, but I only used it. Mike put it together.
Yeah, well, but half the genius is putting it together and half the genius is executing it.
Yeah. Well, this is the second message. The first message I sent out to Kansas City area, and I only got one or two responses. And so I think the biggest difference here was the earn up to $3,000 in a month by holding meetings twice a month. That little headline, that I think is what was totally different than the first email message that we sent out. The first one was, hey, we're looking for a couple of business savvy guys in your area to be chapter hosts.
Right.
That was the gist of the first message. So this one actually had a little bit different flavor to it, and man, it just went nuts.
The second one, when you get a chance, paste in the subject line and paste in the body in the chat box for people.
Okay.
Because Mike's not on the call unless you're on by phone. Are you on by phone, Mike? Yeah, he's not on this call. So I know he had a commitment come up. So when you get a chance, open it up in the background, paste in the subject line, and then paste in the body so people can see it. And now give them the data. The data. How many opted into stage one video, which we don't call a stage one video. What do we call it, Tim? The very first video.
Call it introduction, don't we?
Landing page.
It's the landing
What do you
page.
think?
Landing page. There you go.
Okay. How many opt into landing page video, and how many have now opted into meet with Alan
Okay, I
in the
think
last 30?
I had 19 for the original ones, and I've
Okay.
got 14 scheduled for tomorrow for the stage one call with Alan.
I didn't even know it had gone that high. All right, gentlemen, unmute your mics. Give him some high five and some love. Come on. He's got 14 guys on the call tomorrow.
Way to go.
Now the real key will be
Holy
how many of those
cow.
people. The real key will be how many of those people actually show up on the call.
Of course. Of
Yep.
course. But you're going to follow up with them all today. And you're going to make sure they're comfortable. And if they're not comfortable with GoToMeeting, you're going to ensure that they go on 15, 20 minutes early.
Yes, I've already sent
Right?
them a
You're going to
reminder
talk to Alan to
email.
make sure the meeting room is scheduled. Good.
Yep. I've already
But
sent
try
them
and
a
call them if
reminder
you can.
email. So the next step will be obviously to give them a phone call and make sure they're all ready to go.
Now, the other part of these calls, and when you got 14, this is your whole day. But for the rest of you, when you got one or two, part of that call is making sure they've got some questions ready for Alan. Making sure they got some questions ready for Alan. Remember, you're meeting our president and CEO. Be sure to have some questions. The focus is on membership and the value of membership and how we're going to make that, very valuable. So make sure you've got some questions for Alan around that. You want to prep them so they don't look like idiots when they're on the call. And of course, you also want to make sure that if they're not familiar with GoToMeeting, that they've got a headset and that the headset is plugged in and the headset works and is functional. Alan, big call tomorrow. Oh, Alan?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I'm very excited.
Yep.
Even if we, have 60, 70% of that, that's going to be awesome and a lot of energy. It'll be real fun.
Yeah, and you're going to find, guys, that generally speaking, about 80% of the people that commit show up, or they'll send an email saying, sorry, I can't make it. So, for example, we had a guy this morning say, sorry, I can't make a call with you and Tom. I'm assuming that's today's call for members, but I couldn't tell from the call. Let's see if we can find that name, Alan. If you can look it
No,
up in the
that call that
background.
was from Dick Stuntz. Hey, Tom.
That's a different guy.
Tom, that was
That's a
from Dick
different guy.
Stuntz. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's a different guy. That's a guy that said he was going to be having to leave partway through the call, right? Yeah, you've got an audio delay on your side of some sort. Um, you might want to just cycle your camera off and then on for a bit. That might help. Um, and I'm going to have to
Let me
turn my
barge in there real
email
quick. This is
off.
Todd. Mark, if you need any help with Dick Stunts, I know him pretty well. He's on the board with me for the NGCOA.
Oh, awesome. Okay. He used to manage Albemarle in Lawrence, and I guess he owns a little golf course up in Leavenworth right now, and he's managing 2 or 3 of them up in the north part of Kansas City. So he's a big time contact.
Yeah, he's a good guy to
Awesome.
get involved.
Awesome. So
I'll
14
drop your
people
name.
scheduled.
I'll drop your name on him, Tom, next time, or Todd. Excuse me.
Yeah, sounds good.
So 14 people scheduled, 19 people visited the page. So if you look at that, that's just an unreal conversion rate, guys. Unreal conversion rate from people that opted in to take a look at the information and have scheduled a stage 1 call. So that's fantastic. Normally, you'd expect a much, much lower percentage. But, part of what's amazing about LinkedIn is that we're targeting this very, very well in this process. We're not trying to attract totally irrelevant people to the process. So we get 70-80% of those showing up. They're all going to proceed. The ones that show up will all proceed to stage 2. At that point, I'd expect again another half or maybe a third to pass through onto the stage 2 call with me. But we'll see, right? We'll see. That's part. I mean, part of this process, gentlemen, is filling the funnel.
And
Filling the funnel.
I've got 2 other people who are scheduled for separate calls because they couldn't make the call Tuesday, but they didn't want to wait till next week.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
So the thing that really impressed me about the people that went all the way through to the website and then LinkedIn for the call with Alan is quality of people that they are. We're not talking small potatoes people. We're talking guys who are very, very well connected in their areas and are extremely successful people.
Right on.
We've got a
Right on.
PGA pro in there. We've got some real business professionals in there. Got a couple of writers, trainers, those kinds of things. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation tomorrow.
Which means potential area developers, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
that's
I've got one guy already who's flat out said, I want to be an area developer. So he owns his own BNI chapter in St. Louis. He's got a big solar company. He's very, very well connected with the golf community. He used to work for the Cardinals for about 8 years. So he's a guy you said, whoa, slow him down a little bit.
just a little bit. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
You want to adapt to their schedule, but you don't want to go too crazy. You want to make sure that they're doing their homework and going through the process. So yeah, he's already done a stage 1 call separately with Alan, and we'll be doing the stage 2 on Friday, I assume, with me.
Yeah, I'm going to follow up with him probably tomorrow. We sent him the stage 2, so the business PowerPoint presentation. So I gave him the weekend to look at it. So we'll talk to him probably tomorrow. Get him set up for Friday.
And remember, once you send the stuff, you're not following up with these people unless they follow up with you.
Okay.
So you could do this. You could follow up to confirm he got it.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But anything beyond that is really starting to be selling rather than screening and qualifying.
Right.
So as tempting as it is, you want to make sure that you're following the process like you've done so well so far, Mark, and that is let them come to you. Let them come to you. They know the next step. Let them come to you. Okay? So any questions the rest of you have for Mark Oh, and while we're polling them for questions, Mark, see if you can tell me, of the 14 scheduled and the 2 other one-on-ones, how many of your 10 cities are covered in those 16 people? I'm just curious myself.
Okay, let me count, because some of these are suburbs of cities, and I'm not exactly sure.
Right. Just use your
So
best
I know
guess.
I've got Des Moines, Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska, Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas. So if you count those as 2 separate cities, um, we had some interloper named Swanson, I guess, that LinkedIn just to see how the system worked.
Yeah,
Oh,
Rick's always
I know
testing.
I know him. He's kind of a dingling.
is that right?
Right.
And then St. Louis. So, and in St. Louis, it's a massive market. There are over 40 BNI chapters in St. Louis, but we're talking St. Louis proper, and then Chesterfield and O'Fallon and Maplewood, or not Maplewood, that's in Minneapolis, but uh, quite a few there. I'd say six of my top 10.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And the key is just keep that momentum. Obviously, keep that momentum going. Any questions from any of the other guys, regionals on the call for Mark? Frank, Todd, Tim?
This is Todd. I have a question, actually more on the process there, where you were cautioning Tom about following the process and not doing too much extraneous connecting with these folks. I just
He,
wanted clarification on that as to what part Mark was doing or thinking of doing that you were cautioning him on. If you could clarify that for me,
Sure,
please.
you bet. Thank you for asking. He had mentioned that he sent him the links to the stage 2 video, the detailed video that explains the options of investing, chapter
Okay.
or host facilitator, host chapter, and area development. And he said, I gave him the weekend and I was going to call him tomorrow to make, to follow up with him. Our system doesn't do that. Our system doesn't call to follow up. Hey, how you doing? What do you think? Are you excited? Do you like this? Do you want to go to the next step? Our system is to send it and let him reach out to you if and when he's ready to go to the next step. And as I mentioned to Mark, if you want to confirm just so the guy got the email, that's fine. But even that will be perceived to be a salesman following up on the sale, as opposed to
Yep.
screen and qualify. So unless you have a reason to believe suddenly his email isn't working, because remember, he's come in, he's logged in, he's opted in, you've sent him emails, he's gone to the stage 1 call, you know his email's working. You know the system isn't filtering it out. So unless you have a reason to believe suddenly it's changed, I wouldn't do that. Instead, I would take that same time and fill more people in the hopper. One of the I know Mark's not going to do this, but one of the worst things Mark could do now is just sit back and not fill more people in the hopper. Because the coolest thing Mark could possibly have is another 14 people next week and another 14
Right.
people the week after. And as you guys know, if Mark were to maintain that for 2 or 3 months, every one of his top 10s are going to have an area developer. Right? They're going to have an area developer. They're probably going to have some individual chapters forming as well. But think about that. Imagine he's got 5 guys for St. Louis. Let's say 1 is totally area developer material and 4 are just chapter host material. Whether it's host facilitator, host partner, it doesn't matter. How easy is it for that area developer if he's got 4 partners lined up to understand the value proposition of this? Let alone, hey, well, I tell you what, I'm going to buy the rights to all of St. Louis then. I'm going to buy, 50 chapter area development and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and you each put in 10 grand. I'm going to give you the rights to 4 within me, and he's self-funded his whole area development, and he's locked up the entire market, and Mark's got a superstar guy going for a home run. I mean, there are some really cool, built-in options that go from that. So does that answer your question, Todd?
It does. I have a clarification question. It answers it, I believe. So Mark was talking about calling the folks today to verify that they were going to be on the call. Does that also fall into that same realm where theoretically, if he's already verified they're getting his emails because, let's say, they already watched the stage 1 video, which means that they got an email sending them there, just as an example, then he already knows their email works. So is calling them following up too much, or where does
Well,
that fall?
in
Or
our
is that a good
system,
idea?
yeah, good question. In our system, he's actually supposed to make sure they can do the GoToMeeting smoothly.
Okay, because so that can just be a, hey, make sure your camera works, you know, that kind of a thing.
Yeah,
So it's
totally.
not necessarily a sales call because it's still sort of early on and you're just kind of trying to make sure that they have everything that they need and they understand that. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
probably that's a good idea to do that.
Yeah, and you notice I said the focus is to make sure they've got some good questions for Alan so they don't look like a fool.
Right,
And
right,
of
right.
course you wouldn't use that wording. You might say so you don't feel silly. Make sure you've got some good questions for Alan, our CEO and president, around membership because that's what he's going to be there for, is to answer any questions he can. And the
Or maybe
reality is,
pump up Alan a little bit. That hey, this is really a great opportunity for you to meet the CEO of the company, and you really should take advantage of that by having some great questions.
yeah, yeah. I mean, whatever's real for
Something
you
like
on
that.
that side.
Yeah.
The key I've found with GoToMeeting is if they're not familiar with GoToMeeting, to make sure they understand the process is about video, right? It's about live, and part of what you guys are all going to want to start doing is look at your camera, look at the backdrop, and see how does that play on the camera. Is there a different place to position your desk or position lighting or position, and let me show you what I mean by that, by the way. I'm going to crank mine on here for a second. Okay, so you see the wall and behind, the lighting, all that. Now watch this. That's the exact same room with one light instead of a floodlight and one light. You notice the glare of my glasses is intense on the camera, and it's almost ghost-like, and the color in the background is pretty pale. Obviously, I wouldn't be putting on this shirt if I was doing a call for the golf side. I'd be putting on a golf shirt as well, but watch the difference with that. The glare is massively reduced. It's much cleaner, much simpler. Little things like that, right? And that is just a big painter's light, big yellow painter's light I got plugged in on an extension cord bouncing off the ceiling. So you want to start looking at framing, right? You want to start looking. People are going to be judging you by what they see in the background. How do you look? What's in the background? What's there? So just take a look at that and do a screen capture of your image if you're not sure, and then later take a look at that and say, okay, let's see how this turns out. Right? It's all part of that process. And in this case, with the call, Todd, it's about making them feel comfortable. Making them feel comfortable, not selling them, but just making them feel comfortable, making sure you got this and the headsets and that. And also, frankly, the headset slash camera is a huge part of showing that we're cutting edge to them, right? We're cutting edge technology. We're right on the cutting edge of what's going on, because conferencing isn't cutting edge, but to a lot of people it is cutting edge, right?
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else for Mark? All right. Good job, Mark.
Yeah, this is Frank.
Oh, Frank.
Mark,
Yeah, Frank.
is the camera on? Yeah, there it is.
No.
Okay. Anyway, question for you. You're only using the email with the 3,000 per month that explains the 2 meetings?
Yeah, I
'Cause that's
posted
exactly
it.
the same one I've been using.
Yeah, I posted the text right there in the chat box.
Mhm.
Although it doesn't say the
That's exactly
formatting,
the
it
same one
swatches
I'm
it all
using.
together. Yep,
And Frank, you're
that's the
getting
one.
this.
Okay.
You're getting the second most opt-ins of all the regionals. So that's a good sign. You're just not getting a lot of people booking through to the stage 1 call at this point. So I would, couple things. One is, you notice Mark said volume, 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 right? Continually working that volume. The other
Right,
thing I
right.
noticed is that he customizes it, in the greater St. Louis area, right? Seeking 2 business professionals in the greater St. Louis area,
Mhm.
da 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 da.
Okay.
And you
I
got to be
wasn't
real careful.
customizing it. Are you doing that, Frank?
I've done it on a couple of them, not a couple, a few of them, but not all of them.
I like that.
I've concentrated more on the Tampa Bay area than anything. So pretty much everything has been Tampa Bay.
And what do you, Mark, what do you use for the subject line?
Oh, let me go grab it.
Yeah, because that's
Sorry about that.
90% of getting an email read is the subject line. So I want you to make sure you guys see what the subject
Yeah.
line is.
Yeah, I think you're probably all pretty familiar with it. It's recommendation request, love golf, up to 3,000 monthly hosting local biz golf chapter, mastermind chapter. So I'll copy it and paste it in the chat box.
Yeah.
I call
Okay,
this
good.
Muji. I call this Moochie Magic.
Moochie Magic.
Moochie Magic.
Moochie Magic. That's
And
right.
Yeah.
Mark, for the group, maybe just share how much actual time on task we're talking about here, because I think part of it is the guys sit down for half an hour and do some work on LinkedIn and think that that's enough. And I have a sneaking suspicion you've spent more time than a half an hour a day.
I probably spend on the days where I really work it hard. I spend 2 to 3 hours minimum
Okay.
on it, just because I've had the time. Of course, now obviously I have lots of time, so I'm going to use it to my benefit.
Yeah, great. So I think, yeah, I mean, this is your business enterprise,
Hmm.
for all of you on the call, and I don't think it's out of line at all to expect to, put that kind of energy into it. And 2 to 3 hours a day isn't taxing anybody in terms of workload. Granted, some of you have other things to do, but to get those kinds of results, gosh. I'd sure be spending 2 hours, 3 hours a day to have 14 people scheduled for a call and grow my region. So, way to go, Mark! I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
If
and
I had it to do over again, I might not send 750 out on one day. I might split it up
yeah.
because
Well,
I was
and that
overwhelmed
actually,
with. I
yeah,
was overwhelmed.
you're going to get so many responses and so many people. So frequency is one of the things. Like what I'm doing, Mark, is I'm working LinkedIn Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Hmm.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning, I work my LinkedIn contacts. And this weekend, because I took Friday off for some family events, I worked Sunday on the offering. I also did Sunday morning. So 3 days a week for me. 3 days a week for me is my connecting. And I'm telling you, I built in the last 3 weeks, I've gone from 6,200 to just over 7,000. And I finally hit a milestone this morning. Let me just check and see because I've been working on this sucker for a long time. When they re-engineered their networks, I dropped to 16.3 million total network, and I've been working on this number. Oh, not quite. So it's 7,045 connections, 19.970 million. I'm shooting for 20 million system wide. That's what I want to get to before I even pause on this strategy. And 19.97 million system-wide are the numbers there. So, but it's frequency, right? It's frequency. It's little bits, continually doing it, continually doing it. I like this copy. I had not seen this copy. Tim, can you make sure that you get this posted in the appropriate section of the regional site for the guys so that it's there as well as a reference under the tools?
Yeah, can do.
Thanks.
Tom, one of my connections too is one of your one percenters in LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
and he's definitely taken a look. He might even end up being an AD if he continues through with this.
Right on. Good stuff. Now, here's the tough part. As you get to know these people and get to see who they are, you're going to want to make sure you don't fall in love with them because 90% of them won't become owners. And that's okay. That's part of the process. That's not to say you stop communicating with them, stop giving them value. You just realize, okay, that's part of the process. And as we get organized on our side, we'll have follow-up systems that you can put them in through Infusionsoft to just give them quality information, stay in touch with them, get them involved in some of the other marketing we're doing, the whole bit. But just do your best to not I say not fall in love with stage one candidates because truly 90% of stage one candidates don't work their way through, but 10% of them will binary development. So when we look at that means statistically, 1.4 area developments are in the works for you right now, Mark. Statistically.
Statistically, yeah.
And by the way, those numbers with back 9 have been proven to be conservative. They've been proven to be conservative so far. Just like the conversion numbers, the opt-in numbers to actually sign up to stage 1 should be around 10%. You've got 16 out of 19. That's 75, 80%. That's
Mm-hmm.
7, 8 times the expected conversion rates. And by the way, just to put this in context, guys, $100 a lead is what the franchise brokerage community charges for a quality lead. Generally speaking, is $100 a lead. So when you see 19 people opting in on the first video, that's the same as having spent $1,900, except you didn't have to spend it because you focused your time, right? You focused your time. So imagine now, we're going to talk about, for those of you that are doing the offering help, we're going to talk about, if you get someone to invest a single unit, we're going to hire a full-time marketing assistant for a year for you, working 40 hours a week. Imagine, Mark, how many leads that person can generate. I mean, the concept of selling out your region in 1 year is not a fantasy idea anymore with
No,
LinkedIn.
that's my goal, actually.
It's a fantasy idea if you had to buy leads, because the dollar cost of money and the time and everything else, unless you're totally got all this cash sitting around that you want to burn. But with LinkedIn, you could actually pull that off, right? Time on task, 40 hours a week. I mean, it's got to, take focus, and, with LinkedIn, they've got to have to work through your computer so that the, IP addresses aren't conflicted, and there's all kinds of, technical things we're going to have to make sure we do. But we're just scratching the surface on leveraging this system. Just scratching the surface. I've had, in the last month, I've had about 40 general managers of golf courses connect with me. And I haven't done anything with them. Right? We got some stuff we can do with these guys once they connect in to build raving fans too. So very excited, Mark. Very excited. One more round of applause for Mark, guys. Give him a hand.
Woohoo! Thanks,
Go,
Tim.
The delayed applause. Good job, Mark.
Oh, that was pretty good. That was pretty good.
Yeah, sometimes video conferencing isn't quite as live as live. But all right. Anybody else want to share some of their results and or feedback? Good, bad, or ugly? Good, bad, or ugly? Okay, so now let's move on to the next part, which is accountability. We've started the accountability process for chapter hosts this morning. Alan filled me in. We have 18 chapters either open or forming, by the way, just so you guys know, that's the exact number as of this morning. 18 chapters, and 9 of the chapter hosts were on that call this morning. So that's 50% of the hosts. Alan and Tim are going to work on getting all of them on those calls, but that's a pretty good start for the very first launch meeting. What I want to talk about is the accountability process of regionals building their region. So this is specifically chapter host marketing. And what Profit Hacks uses is a slightly different system than Alan and Tim are using. And so I want to describe it to you and see if you guys are game. What they do is a daily call to start and a daily email to wrap. And the wrap email is what was I going to do? What did I do? What didn't I, and why didn't I do whatever I didn't get to? 3 parts. Oh no, and then what will I do tomorrow? So look at the daily email wrap part first. What was I going to do? What did I do? Why didn't I do whatever I didn't get to on that list? And what will I do tomorrow? Right? Bing, 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 bing. All things, by the way, all things you can control. So activities, effort, etc., not outcomes. So, Mark, based on what you've now been seeing, you can't control when people will opt in on the landing page, right? Mark, if you want to unmute.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right, you can't control that,
That's
but
correct.
you can control how many people you connect with and how many people you send a message to. Right? So those are things that are within your control. So the process that Pete Williams recommends, and he runs over a dozen companies in Australia himself, fabulous entrepreneur, and he's created this system of scaling and duplicating themselves that he marketed under this product called Profit Hacks. We have the program. If this appeals to you, you can get the login information from Tim or Alan or myself and get into it and listen to it. But part of it is, how do you manage these outsourcing and outtasking people? And this is how they do it. They do a daily call, 15 minutes max, one-on-one, each start of the day, and then an email wrap. So the calls that Alan and Tim are doing, obviously, once you guys are up to speed as regionals and feel comfortable with it, it's something you'll be able to take on in your region. You don't need Alan and Tim doing those calls. That's actually your job. But in the beginning, Alan and Tim are helping you figure this process out with the chapter host. So same thing for chapter host marketing. So this is the model that I'm going to propose we do, with one change. Tom's proposal, 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If we do the calls. The other possibility is we could do double emails, but I think there's an advantage to the calls. Short, focused, here's what I'm going to work on, here's what I'm going to get done, and then an email, here's what I got done. 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 So, thoughts, input, feedback. Will this help you make more money? Will this help you get more done? Will this help you reach your goals? Will this help you have more prosperity, energy, and joy? Will this be a pain in the butt?
This is Todd. Yes, this will be a pain in the butt, and yes, I think it will help me get more done and be more productive. But
Okay.
there's lots set out there. If you look at getting coaching, or successful people, or people that preach success, they always talk about getting out of your comfort zone. And I think that's why it becomes a bit of a pain in the butt and gets you outside your comfort zone, but that's a good thing.
Okay. Thanks on both factors. Tim.
This is
Yeah,
Frank.
Todd said almost.
Tim first.
Todd said almost exactly what I was going to say. Sounds like a pain in the butt, and that's probably exactly what I need. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how specifically it works. Email at the end of the day sounds totally smart. Just a little nervous about the logistics of so many calls in the mornings and how we schedule all that and stuff. We work that part out, and I'd say, yeah, let's do it.
Well, and I'm the same way. I don't know how physically I can fit this in, and maybe maybe it's Mike Mucci taking the calls in the Eastern Time Zone, so it's truly the start of the day, because Mike's there to support each of you guys and help you grow your chapters, and
Yeah, that's
as
good.
you heard from Mark, it's the Mike Mucci method we're using for a large chunk of this right now, which is the lead generation side of things, and so maybe that's part of the logistics of how we can fit that in, so that it truly is the start of the day for the Eastern Time Zone people. One of the problems John Ashton has is he can't make our meetings at this time of day with his current schedule. So John, if you're listening to this recording, we'd love your feedback on that. Mike, if you're listening to this recording, we'd love your feedback on that as well. And find a way to make that part work. But
Yep.
yeah, I completely agree, Tim. I think it's would be very, very helpful and a pain.
Tom,
Mike's there. Hey, Mike, go ahead.
I
You get two
I
for me.
have been I have been on the call, so
Oh, good.
whatever you would need, and whichever helpful to everybody, I'm all for.
Okay. All right. So that's you and I. Let's talk one-on-one, Mike. When you get time today, we'll figure out the time to talk, and we'll figure out the logistics feedback-wise. Frank?
Yes, I'm going to give you a ditto on that whole thing because I agree with the whole thing. It will be a pain, but it definitely is needed.
Okay. Cool. And I think that's all the. Oh, Mark. Mark.
I'm going to unmute myself here. Yeah. Now, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, I agree with what everybody said. It is definitely going to be a pain in the rear end, but it's a good way to help us keep track of the way things are going. So I sometimes get overwhelmed with all the stuff I'm doing, and I need a system probably to help me just organize it and verbalize it.
Beautiful. Okay. So then here's what I would suggest we do. I'll talk to Mike Mucci offline. Mike's going to be helping out Jeffrey in his region while Jeffrey recovers from surgery. And so Mike's going to be wearing essentially the Rocky Mountain hat to help out. And I've offered to help Mike with that. And so we might do something different in the next couple of weeks than we do once Jeffrey's back on his feet. But let me talk to Mike. Let me talk schedule and go over that and see what we can come up with. And we'll let you guys know ASAP with that. Appreciate it.
Tom, I'd like to make a comment on this.
Please.
As we're doing this, I'd like to just keep in mind the forward thinking of this method. What I'm trying to say is, at this point, we're kind of talking about helping ourselves to be more productive, which is great. But I think it was mentioned, or at least alluded to, that down the road, we're going to need to be doing this for our teams. You know, as we have, you know, that's the whole point of the regional sub-franchisor, is that we're the support and we're going to grow our teams in our regions. So we're going to need to, if we find this successful, we're going to need to be able to host this and do those calls for each of our area developers and show them how to do it for their hosts in their areas. And so as we develop this, if we can make it into a teaching tool, not just a helping tool, so we can learn how to do it ourselves, that would be a good future thinking plan.
Yep, absolutely. Got to be scalable, got to be duplicatable. I completely agree. And that's Alan and Tim are taking a slightly different approach than this one. And that's part of the reason is we want to test a couple of different approaches, see what's going to be most effective, see what works best with the logistics and the numbers. But yeah, I mean, you know, you get 10 area developers in place, you should be doing 10 of those calls, right? 10 of those calls. And they do it daily, every workday. They do it, and they find it to be the most profitable time they invest with their team members, and the rest of the time is not holding their hands as a result. So a 15-minute one-on-one call and a follow-up email is all that happens, which, by the way, takes the person 5 to 7 minutes to put together the email. So, you know, altogether, it's less than a half an hour of commitment, but it makes the other 7.5 hours super productive. Like, holy cow. Okay, make sure it's scalable to our various teams. Got that. Got that, Todd. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. All right, let's jump on an EWGA launch. Next thing, they have started their marketing of chapter hosts, and we've had opt-ins come in all weekend. I think we've had 5 or 6 that I saw. Mike, Tim, Alan, do you have any difference in the numbers?
I don't remember anything other than that. I can check behind the scenes if you want.
Yeah, check and see. I see we got some Becky links and some Pam links. So I'm not sure. I think they must both be in the referral program. But it was great to see. Great to see. So the marketing has started for chapter hosts. And Mark, question, comment?
Yeah, are we going to work with them in the local areas? For instance, in Kansas City, are we going to, you guys can tell us who these ladies are, or can we contact them, or are we to let them to do the marketing on their own, and then we get the referrals?
Right now, they're doing the marketing on their own, and then we get the referrals.
Okay.
That's what they're most comfortable with. But remember, Alan spoke to all the regional meetings they had this January, February, and Alan and I are speaking at their national conference in May. And so we're working many different ways to broaden that net. But right now, they're sending the information out. By the way, they also sent an email to all 150 members in Colorado for the seminar, recommending people go to the Quantum Business Golf Seminar in Denver. And we had 4 or 5 people opt in to watch the videos there. I don't think anyone's registered yet from it, but we've had 4 or 5 people opt in to watch the initial video. So we'll see what happens on that side. In doing this, I wanted to let you guys know that essentially they're an area developer seeking a partner. And I wanted to remind you of the financial model and then discuss the area development option, which we hadn't talked about. The financial model for a single chapter, right? Single chapter is 50% EWGA owned, 50% new chapter host owned. Okay. And the 10% down is cut in half. So someone puts 5% down, right, which is $625. That's it. And then the balance is financed, which is 50% of the chapter, or 12,500 minus the down payment, right? Which equals 125 less 12, so 11,875 financed. Okay. So just so that sure everyone's clear of the money model. Now, half of all chapter franchise fees goes to EWGA, half split with regional and THQ. All system rental fees as usual, right? Let's put this specifically, 5% to region, 5% to THQ. So full system rental fees, but 25% instead of 50% of the chapter fees. So before we go into area development, I want to make sure that everyone is crystal clear on this model so that you know it, so that when you're having those discussions, you not only understand it, but you embrace it and appreciate it and everything else. So questions, comments?
Tom, can you adjust your screen? I can't see what's on there very well. Can you make it a little bigger?
How's that?
So, there we go. That helps. Thank you.
So a single chapter is owned completely by EWGA and the chapter host that they find.
Correct.
Each 50%. Okay.
So it's like EWJ has bought 100 chapters, and instead of paying us for those 100 chapters, we're paying half the fees, or no, 25% of the fees collected to them. and 25% gets split between us and between the regionals and THQ, right?
Because each chapter is only 12.5 instead of 25.
Correct.
So the chapter host is paying the 12.5
Eventually.
over time, the 625 up front, and then the balance financed. So there's
Yeah.
12.5 total coming in. Half of that goes to EWGA and half goes to us.
Correct. With us being split, regional THQ.
Right.
So essentially, we're not making anything up front really, and we're making a little bit down over time. You know, a little bit. I mean, you know, if it's 10 chapters, it adds up. But really, what it is a way to fast track system rental fees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you crystal clear, Tim?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Frank, Mark, Todd?
Got it.
Frank?
Yeah, this is Todd. I'll jump in and then.
Yeah, I got it.
I just wanted to say I'm glad you mentioned the way you said it, because that's exactly what I thought when I was hearing you say it, and that basically it's we as a company, you and us, aren't getting any money up front really. I mean, the 625 is enough to really just have them have skin in the game, is the way I figure that the reason that's there is to get some skin in the game, and that's about it. And it's a way to fast track getting the 5% each on the system rental fees. And when you said that, it made total sense, because that's how I was seeing it. So I'm clear.
Cool. And Frank, we got your comments, so that's good. Mark?
Yeah, I said I got that crystal clear.
Okay.
Crystal clear.
Right. Good, good. So then the next part of the discussion, oh, Rick, question, comment? Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. In the bigger picture, EWJ will build out their 100 chapters pretty quick, I imagine. Let's say they do. And it's going to generate interest in all the markets where they open these chapters, and either the husbands or the boyfriends or the business partners of these women will say, well, that sounds cool. I want to get in on that. Have we coached EWGA at all in terms of, if you've come up with other people outside of EWGA who want to be in the back nine experience? There may be a regional director near you or an ADA to get back in. I know there's going to be enthusiasm if EWGA opens a chapter in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
You
And
bet.
I know that's going to help me. And so I just want to know if they're coached in any way to, sort of continue to spread the love and that sort of thing.
They are, and it relates to the next item on the discussion list.
Okay, good.
So yeah. First off, they're starting to understand this referral partner link stuff, and they're using the links, and they're understanding the links, track it, and it's up to us to market the referral partner rewards and create the rewards program so that it's crystal clear, that path. And then specifically the area development discussion, which is coming up next, is going to complicate that a little bit, potentially. Or potentially not. Okay, so everyone's good on the single chapter model. So then the area development option. We are going to have some people, let's just leave Rick's example outside, that's just a referral. And we pay them a referral fee, and whatever that is, we budget and away we go. But we are going to have some people, EWGA members, that take a look at this and go, you know what, I want rights to the whole market. I want an area development agreement. I don't want a single chapter. We are going to have some people who are going to say, I want to do this without the EWGA, and we already talked to Becky and Pam about that, and we'll pay them a referral fee if those come to fruition. So don't worry about that complication. But now let's talk about someone that is a fan of EWGA, that is a member of EWGA, but they want the rights to 4 or more chapters. We could say, no, sorry, that's not available, is one possibility. The other possibility, so let's just put these things down. Sorry, no can do, option 1. The second option is, sure, same deal as single chapter. And the other option is, sure, different deal. Alan and I talked about this at length because Alan was updating the copy for the stage 2 video for EWGA. They're going to get a different link. They're going to get a different stage 2 link because we have to cover the unique elements of EWGA paying for half the chapter, right? And we don't want that on everyone's a link, so we're doing a separate thing there. And Alan, maybe we want to update the guys on two things. Number one, the status of that, where we're at with that, and second, your thoughts on these other two options.
On the two options in terms of
the ones I just typed on the screen. Sure, same deal as a single chapter,
yeah, okay,
or
gotcha.
Sure, different deal, or sorry, nor can do, which I know you're not
well,
in favor
yeah,
of. So,
and so where we're at with the actual tool being put live probably by the end of today is my guess. It should be up and running, so no timing issues there. In terms of which option I think we should go for, to me, the game we're playing is the system rental fees going forward and creating interest in the regions. So yes, while the upfront fees are going to be diminished, by half, um, to get that kind of activity in your area with EWGA regional and getting chapters open and getting the 5%, system rental fees kicking in every month for residual cash flow. I think that's where it's at. And so I'm less concerned personally about the upfront fees. It's not to say that you guys aren't, but my feeling is that to me, it's all about the residual recurring revenue. And yeah, the upfront fees are cool, but there's lots of other ways to get that outside of EWGA. So that's my take on it.
So you would be recommending Sure, same deal, a single chapter.
Yes.
Okay. So that's what Alan's recommending in that discussion. I'd love to get the rest of your thoughts on this. Mark, first up.
Yeah, the question is, if they want to become an AD, let's just say some the EWGA chapter in Kansas City, the chapter host says, hey, I want an area development. What does that do for the rest of the territory? I mean, is it going to be exclusively for women through the EWGA, or?
Oh, yeah, no, good point. They would only do an area development as if they were marketing to the public. And we expect most of the EWGA members to be marketing to the public, not to be marketing just to EWGA members. So you wouldn't do an area development agreement that wasn't marketing to the public. 100% for sure.
Right. But what I'm saying, how is that going to affect what we're doing? Say I have an area development already in Kansas City.
They couldn't get one then.
Okay. Say I didn't have one
area
in
developments
Kansas.
are exclusive. Area developments are exclusive.
Right.
You can't award two area developments to the same geography.
Right. So then I guess here's the,
you know what? I'm just so excited that Mark's having this discussion around, well, assuming my territory's full and assuming I can't fit anyone else in, how am I going to fit someone in? I like that, Mark. I like where your head is, man.
So what I understand, the way the EWGA groups are going to work was they would be, if you were an EWGA member and you had a chapter, then the members of that chapter would all be women or EWGA.
No.
Is that a false premise there?
Totally false premise. Some might want to do that, but my guess is 99% of the people are going to want to market it abroad to anyone, anywhere, and just find a way to earn $3,000 a month working 2 days a week.
Right. Okay.
That's my guess.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, a little bit.
So
I just don't. They're not going to be butting up against what we're doing. We're supposed to be working together on this, right?
Yeah, in fact, they're going to be your area developers. If we do an area development, they'll be an area developer just like any other area developer,
right?
That you would award.
But if you reward them in area development, do they get that area development at half price if we do the same deal as a single chapter?
That's what we're discussing now.
Okay.
So option 2 on the screen is yes, they would get it at half price, and EWGA would profit from that. We would not only would they get it at half price, but the half they pay, half of that we would give to EWGA headquarters,
Okay. So that
which would,
that would
of
reduce
course,
the upfront for us by what?
instead of well, take a 10-unit area development, right? That would be
Okay.
$25,000 down. Now instead it would be 12,500 down, and 6,250 would go to EWGA, which means 6,250 would be split between Mark and THQ. So you'd make $3,125. We'd make $3,125 versus 12,5. So it would be a quarter of the upfront money. If it's same deal, it would be a quarter of the upfront money. Be all the same, full pop of the system rental fees.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the reason this is on the discussion block is that we hadn't talked about area developments, but I know we're going to get people who want it. And so we need to have a plan before they start asking us, because, I don't want to be saying, I don't know.
Well,
Good question.
before I even know what option number 3 is, right now I'm opting for option number 3. I'll go with whatever you guys decide. And maybe I'm thinking of it in the wrong way. So I'll just kind of listen to see what everybody else says.
Well, the issue to think about is, does it serve us to slow down that process with the most excited EWGA members, right? Does it
Mm-hmm.
serve us?
Mm-hmm.
And at
Probably
first, I was exactly where you were. At first, I was exactly where you were. And then I was talking to Alan about it. I'm like, well, yeah, but the game we're playing is system rental fees. It's
okay.
not the upfront fees. The game we're playing is that. Now, if I get two guys competing and group one wants to pay me full pop and group two, I'm going to get a quarter, I'm obviously biased already. So I'm not concerned
Mm-hmm.
about the competing guys. That'll take care of itself in the marketplace. But and by the way, EWGA hasn't been promised a dime out of an area development. So it could be that they get it for 50%, but we don't give any of that money to EWGA. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
then EWGA, if I'm them, I'm going to feel like, oh, so the best leads we give you, you're not cutting us in on it. Like, you're trying to screw us on your best leads. Well, that's not a very nice partner. And they're right, because that's what that proposal would be. um, and if we do nothing, we're still going to have people wanting to migrate and upgrade at some point. So let's go around the horn a bit more. Frank's got something to add.
Yeah, one of the big things that I've always said, and I think you probably said the same thing, is the residuals which is the rental fee, is the more people that you can get into that pipe, the better off you are, and the more rental fees that you're getting is going to be a lot better. So, and it's like I explained to you at one other time. I consider the actual down payments and things like that just as a bonus. Uh, that's not what you're going to actually be living off of. Your residuals is where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. That's all I got to say.
Okay. So you support option 2, same deal like Alan.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks. Other guys? So we got Alan and Frank, and right now we got Mark, but flexible. Todd had some log-in, log-out issues. See if he's fixed them. Back in 5. I've got to check the attendee list here. No, we lost him. Tim, over to you. You're next then.
Yeah, I was totally fine with it basically being the same deal as the single chapters when I was thinking of it as half. You cut everything down to a quarter. Now I hesitate a little more. Um, Long term, the residual is the game we're playing, and I agree with that. Um, just in the financial modeling and stuff that I've done for my region, the cash flow, the primary cash flow for year one is in those initial fees and whatever. So it could cut into that if it happens to be multiple EWGA ADAs in a region. Yeah, that's a pretty high class problem to have.
Well, yeah, and that's what got me back on the other option, Tim, was like, okay, well, let's take this in a real world. Let's say 10 4-unit deals are done. I got 40 chapters paying me 5%. And assume I don't even count the other stuff now because it's such a small amount. I'm not even counting it. And of course, 40 would add up. I mean, 40 would be 25%, 3,000 times 40 be 120 grand. To me, the regional 120 grand is not insignificant. We're saying it's nothing now, but if it was 10 4-unit deals or 4 10-unit deals, that's still 120 grand extra. So it's not insignificant, but nonetheless, 40 chapters, the 5%, if we're talking the 5% being, 9, 5, let's call it 400 a month for easy math. Okay. Call it 300 a month. Call it the conservative chapter. 300 a month. 40 chapters, right, is 12 grand a month. Extra. Versus if we restrict them, it would be, 3 grand a month. Like that's what where I was looking at is going, well, is there an advantage to us restricting them? Do we ultimately make more money by restricting them? Well, only if we have people competing for area developments. And if we have people competing for area developments at the same time, we're not going to, we're probably not going to go with them. Let's be clear.
Well, right, but it's the timing is the timing's the issue there. If the EWGA person is ready for San Francisco or whatever, 2 months before I find somebody else that then they could very likely get in first, and we miss out on what could have been a better option just because of the timing. But that's always going to be the case.
The other possibility, guys, could be that it's just a 4-unit deal. That we cap it at 4, and anything they want to do beyond 4, they pay 12.5, and they being EWGA and their partner pay 12.5. EWGA doesn't make money on anything above the 4. They just do it because it's their partner and them agree that they want to expand.
Aren't we only talking about a 25% difference though in revenue to the regional?
No, double from the other perspective.
Yeah. Well, it's
we're talking about the difference of 25% versus 50% is double the money.
It's actually 1/4 the revenue.
Right. So that's
75% less, not 25% less.
75% less to the regional or total?
75% less to the regional, 75% less to THQ on the upfront and the ongoing financed chapter fees. No change on system rental fees.
So EWGA gets half ownership of every chapter they create for free. They don't put a penny in.
Correct.
No, and they get half of the money from the other
Correct.
from their. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Nothing on system rental fees, though, Tim.
Nothing in system rental fees, and they put 20 years into building 14,000 members, and now they're courting their members, and we're leveraging that relationship. We're taking their 20 years of experience, their 14,000 members, and we're leveraging that relationship. It's not something for nothing, right? Normally, by the way, all their other partners at this level pay big bucks to be a partner with EWGA. So think of it as we're paying 100 grand for this partnership, but we're not paying it up front. We're paying it out of results.
Right.
Right? I mean, if you take 100 chapters, forget any area developments. Let's take a simple chapter model, right? They're going to get 625 bucks. We're going to get 625. No, sorry. They're going to get 312 bucks times 100 chapters. That's 30 grand. They're going to get 30 grand in upfront money. All the rest comes down the road. They're going to get 30 grand in upfront money if 100 people partner with us and agree to give us $1,000 a month royalties for the rest of their lives, essentially. But yeah, it's 75% less, Alan, to answer your question. Todd's back on. Your thoughts, Todd?
I apologize. First of all, I had to log off and reboot to try to get my camera working, which was successful, but I missed a few minutes of discussion, so I apologize if I speak about something that's already been covered. My thoughts are I'm totally in agreement with getting fast-tracking things to get the residual income of system rental fees in, because that long-term, that's the game we're playing in my mind also. So I'm on board with that concept. I'm wondering if there's a way to going to the idea of an EWGA member going into multiple chapters, or as an area developer into that concept. If you have one member that's trying to do more than one chapter, I'm wondering if it makes sense to look at a model similar to what we had when we first started, where they earn the right to a second chapter by having the first chapter up and running and profitable, and that's the only way they earn a right to open another chapter at that level. And if they want to get into an area development, then they can do that just like anybody else can, and they're doing it by making a larger dollar commitment, not by showing results.
Right, so that's option one, which is they just get that and they have to earn their way up. The challenge with that is, which we could totally do, Todd. The challenge with that is it creates a disincentive for someone who wants multiple chapters. Obviously, it creates a disincentive because they can't pursue that unless they pony up. And then when they do pony up, because I believe some would, as we've seen ourselves, then it creates an environment where a high dollar customer, EWGA is getting cut out of the picture on. So we're saying to our strategic alliance partner, yeah, and if you bring us any really good customers, we'll be sure to cut you out of the deal. Which it just doesn't sit right with me. Basically, we'd be screwing EWGA on the high volume customers.
Well, I guess maybe I wasn't clear, or maybe I was in what I was proposing. I was proposing that they could become a multiple chapter owner, but only one at a time. They couldn't lock down an area, a territory, 10 at a time. They'd have to do it one at a time by getting those open and showing that they're. I guess one of my concerns is having committed area developers that haven't put up enough up front to have enough skin in the game, that they're not going to sit on their territory for a long time and create a problem where there's no cash flow and we can't resell that area.
Well, keep in mind what we're supposed to be doing with area development contract, Todd, is having a schedule, and the schedule kicks in system rental fees whether those chapters are open or not. So if we follow through on our plan, which is to have that in place for every area developer, where if they don't meet, there's a schedule, a development schedule, and as that timeline hits, they then have to pay fees whether the chapters are open or not. Remember that part of our original area developer model? Then people will voluntarily back out of those deals to avoid having to pay those fees in a nanosecond, or step up and get their act together.
Well, to be honest with you, it's been a while since we talked about that, and I did not remember that part, although it totally makes sense, and that was actually part of what I would suggest for my stream of thought. I was thinking, that there would have to be some type of a schedule, and obviously that goes to the same thinking that we're discussing about, something that affects me. And I think that there's value there to having some type of a schedule, to have an incentive to get things done in a certain time frame, right?
Yep.
So yeah, as long as there's a
Yep.
schedule, then I think that answers that part of it. So I'm good. I'm good there.
If we had a development schedule, Mark, would that assuage your concerns with financial costs attached to it? Mark, if we had a development schedule, would that assuage your concerns?
He must be muted. He
You
is
there, Mark?
muted. He is muted, yeah. Hey, Mark, if you're talking, you're muted, bud.
He must be on the other line, multitasking. Hello, Mark. Hello, Mark Stevens. Hello, Mark. Hello, Mark. You there? We're awaiting your input. Frank.
Question here. This one that you just proposed here a second ago, after the first floor, that they get that at a reduced price, but then after that, they go to a higher price. I mean, are we going to talk a little bit more about that, or is it? Did we already decide we're not going to do that?
Well, no, that's still on the table. All this is on the table,
Okay.
because what I want is something we can all agree with and that makes sense. So it could be that it's a 4-unit maximum, to assuage your concerns about the validation side of it, right? Making sure that they're good. But we
Right.
still have a performance schedule, which we need in all area developments, not just these guys. Performance schedule with payments starting. What you do with the performance schedule is you have payments that start based on the development schedule. So it might be half system rental fees for 3 months, then full fees after that. Like a phase in. Right. Let's say we're expecting system rental fees to be, $900 a month. So it might be that $450 a month kicks in on the day you said you're going to start your schedule of the second chapter.
I'm just wondering if that would deter people from actually going further than just 4 chapters. If to me, I would look at it like somebody was wanting to develop more of these, but maybe they still wanted it at that reduced price, and would they be more apt to actually get involved with more chapters at a reduced price, or would they just want to stay at 4 and be satisfied at that? See, I would think, to me personally, if it were at a reduced price, I would go for the full 10.
Right, but one possibility might be that we limit this deal to 4
based on
to make sure
performance.
to make sure they're working together with EWJ smoothly and everyone loves each other. You know, I don't know how you
So in other words,
I don't know how you
you'd
limit it.
have checkpoints through it. So in other words, what you're saying is you'd have checkpoints through there before they would have to reach a milestone and then go to the next milestone and then go to the next milestone. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. No, I'm not saying that, but I don't know. I don't know what you know. I don't know the argument you say how you say to someone, you know, you can control all of Tampa or you can control only a quarter of Tampa. I mean, if I want to buy Tampa, I want to buy Tampa.
Right.
That's that, and if the right person is going to want to control their marketplace, they're going to want to because they understand the potential of this. Let's jump over to Mark, and he's joined us
Sure.
again, and then back to Tim.
Yeah, I kind of like limited it to four. I'm kind of like Tim. I keep looking at this and thinking, especially as we're building our regions, we're trying to fund our regions at the same time. And if this gets too much out of hand, you know, we're losing quite a bit of scratch up front. Understanding that the system rental fees are what we're looking for over time. So that's my only concern. And I like, if we're going to go with this, I think a 4-unit maximum is probably the way to go. Um, I personally wouldn't want somebody to lock up an entire area like Tampa or Kansas City or St. Louis for half price. I don't know, that just doesn't sit well at the moment with me. And I'm not trying to be a Scrooge on this or anything like that, or disrespect what EWGA has done over the last 20 years either. But at the same time, you know, we're trying to build our business here and create our own legacies. And tell me if I'm way off the mark here, because
Well,
you know.
no, that's why we're talking because I wasn't clear
Okay.
either as to which way to go. So you know, statistically though, let's put this in context. We're talking 100 chapters. We're talking maybe 10% would be area developer interested. That's 10. That means 1 or 2 in each of your regions. We're not talking your entire region. We're talking 1 or 2.
And as long, I guess, as if we don't allow it to get to the point, like you said, lock down an entire major metropolitan area, then I'm okay with that.
Well, but I want to flip it around. The only people you're going to award these to, an area developer, is someone you're ecstatic about,
Mm-hmm.
that is unbelievably qualified, and you're feeling, oh my God, are they going to rock with this? That's the only people you're going to award area developers to, period.
Okay.
Funds up front or not. If you award, the worst thing any of us can do is award an area development to someone who sits on their butt.
So we're going to
Um,
have a say then in who we award those area developments with, correct?
oh, absolute veto.
Because
You
I
guys have
don't,
a veto and we have a veto. And so
yeah.
and you're going to use that veto if you're not sure they're a great fit. So
Do
I don't
we
think
have
we
that
need
same?
to limit the 4 units. Now that I think about it, guys, limiting the 4 units doesn't make sense because if we're not sure, we shouldn't be awarding them 4.
That's true. I agree with
We
that.
shouldn't. And if they're going to commit to 10 and an aggressive rollout schedule with performances, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's 30 grand in fees, your cut, and 10 times 300 is 3,000 a month in system rental fees. So, you know, now that I look at that, you know, a 10 unit deal is going to make you $30,000 cash and 3,000 a month cash flow.
We can handle that. And when you
Yeah,
put it in those terms, yeah. Yeah, I
that's
can
not a
handle
bad, oh, I have to suck it, man. Suck it. It's only 3 grand a month extra.
it. And the system rental fees are going to be the same, period.
Yeah,
Okay.
totally. Totally. So, and that's not counting the fact that if someone opens up 10 chapters, you know they're going to spawn off more chapters out of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of talking myself into this that we're, as long as we stick to only awarding people that we adore, right? If we only award people that we adore and we have a performance schedule that allows, but here's what happens with the performance schedule. The only people that are going to pay you that fixed money are those that are actually going to get them open anyhow. No one else is going to pay you that. They're going to negotiate out of the area development schedule and give you the territory back. But by having the fees in the structure, it gives them a financial incentive to negotiate that with you. You with me, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Really
Mm-hmm.
important. You're not going to see that money except for those that are real keen and really focused anyhow. The rest, you're going to use that to negotiate out of locking up a territory to someone who's not performing.
Yeah, and that
Which
reality
is a
holds true with a regular area developer outside of EWGA. The same thing applies,
totally,
right? Yeah.
totally, 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 totally.
Well, I think for me, that's what I was going to suggest. We've almost gotten in this conversation to the point where we're thinking of an EWGA ADA as less qualified or somehow less than anyone else we find, and that's not necessarily the case. They have to, like you said, they have to meet the same requirements, both in who they are and their game plan and whatever for their territory. But I think also the system by which we decide how big a territory is and how many chapters that
Yep.
is the same. So if a county is a 10-unit area development, then that's what it is, no matter where we find the ADA from.
Yeah, and if we feel it's best that it's one person, then it's best that it's one person.
Right. Yeah, limiting it to 4 means we either lose out on the potential for that county to really blossom into all it's worth, or and so there's no point in changing the rules there. It should be the same.
Okay, so I've got you down as supporting that in concept then, Tim?
Yeah.
Okay, and Mark, I've got you down as long as we got those performance schedules in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, guys. Much appreciated. Just looking at the clock, I want to move on to the next piece on our agenda, which is the input on Wednesday's calls. I didn't hear back from most of you as to whether or not you thought that made sense for me to do ongoing coaching, consulting calls the first 3 Wednesdays of the month. Because I didn't hear back from most of you, I assumed you either ignored it, were too busy, or thought it was a dumb idea. But it dawned on me could have been lots of other reasons, and you just never got back to me. So do you think that would help us help our members? And should I pursue that, therefore, while we build in other ways to add more content structure, whether it's the Chairman's Club or whatever else? Most of you I haven't heard from when I asked for feedback on this, so I'd like to get feedback from you. Mark.
I don't remember if I gave you feedback or not. I like the idea. It's a members coaching thing, and to me that would be an incentive. Don't know what else to say about that. I just think it's a great idea.
Okay. Well, and I hadn't heard any feedback from most people in this call, so that's
Okay.
helpful. Thank you. Todd? You're muted, Todd.
Okay, maybe now is better. Anything we can do to add value to the membership, I think, is a good idea. My only concern is making sure people understand the value of it. Those of us that know you and have been coached by you already understand that because of having that experience. But my concern is pretty clear. I think that without knowing the value, people aren't going to see it as value.
Well, I have no problem with that because they're not coming on the call. So if we offer it to them and they don't take advantage of it, that's up to the chapter host to motivate them and inspire them to get on the call. I'm not going to push a wet noodle. If they're on the call and they're participating, I'll make sure they get value. That's the way I look at that, Todd. Does that make sense?
It does. I guess I'm looking at it as having it as a tool to help sell the value of Back 9, and having a good way to package that, if you will, or let people know that X number of people, the first so and so many people that are members have access to this.
Yeah, this isn't the Chairman's Club thing where it's limited or special or whatever. This will be anyone that's a member, period, which would include executives and chapter hosts, by the way.
Oh, okay, unlimited.
And it would be for now, not forever, to help them now.
Okay, my mistake. I misunderstood.
Yeah, this wasn't the chairman's club thing. We still haven't been able to figure out all the logistics of making that work. But this is something we could do now to actually add value to the guys in Portland and Denver in particular. But also the ones that are forming, right? You're forming now. You could get people joining now, get help now, get value now, right? You know, put a deposit in, start joining the calls.
So is the idea then that there'll be more value once the system has grown larger, and that these calls will become less important or less necessary, and so that's why it will be a temporary thing?
I don't know about less necessary, but they'd migrate to something else is the way I'd look at it. They'd migrate to some other way of adding value and high value content.
Okay. Well, that being said, and my understanding a little better now, I still stick with anything that adds value. And I guess that the other side of that is doesn't limit your time too dramatically, because we need your time spent on other valuable things as well, which I know is why you're asking this question, because you don't want to waste your time either.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Tim?
I think it's a great idea, as I mentioned earlier today to you. Yeah, I think it's really valuable to offer it to the existing members. I also think it could be a really valuable thing for executives, because we have, I think system-wide, we've had a hard time keeping executives really engaged, and if the executives are really getting value out of it, this is one of those ways where they could. They'll be far more engaged in the process, be better recruiters, etc. So
Yeah,
I
I
think it
agree.
could be really valuable for that too.
Yeah, in fact, that could probably be even more helpful than the members,
Very possible. Yes.
right?
Personal testimony and stuff like that will make a big difference. Yeah,
Yeah,
when they feel really engaged.
cool. Thanks. Okay. Um, that is that part. I have nothing else scheduled for the call. So open topic. Anything else on any topic whatsoever? And top of the hour is the financing call for those that are working on their financing. But meanwhile, any other topics? Mark.
Hey, Tom, I saw the offering sheet. I really liked it. Thanks for the clarification. Is there going to be something produced for regionals similar?
Yeah, and the financing call at the top of the hour, we'll talk about how to adopt that and
Okay.
adapt it for you guys and for your use and what parts and pieces. Literally, it was near midnight last night when I got it done, the draft in the shape that you see it now. And so, yeah, you bet. At the top of the hour, we'll talk about how we adapt it for your use and everyone else's that's raising capital, and use it for your own journey to raise capital. And yeah, and then an hour later, we're going to have a call for those that want to help raise money for the offering. One thing that I do want to just clarify on that for all of you guys. Question came up on the offering call last time we had one from Todd around, but how do I know which is better to raise money for my region or raise money for THQ? We're offering you guys dollar for dollar matching on any money you raise in the first 10 units to any money you owe us. Plus, we're going to hire a full-time marketing assistant for 1 year, you recall. So the short and very specific answer to Todd's question is, if you don't desperately need the cash, well, no, let me rephrase it. If you desperately need the cash, take the cash. If you don't desperately need the cash, you get more than twice the leverage
Mm-hmm.
for the first 10 units. More than twice the leverage, because you get 2-to-1 leverage on the dollars, plus there's a second unit for the first 10. That's 3-to-1 leverage. Plus, we're going to hire you a marketing assistant for 1 year, which is 2,000 man hours of help. So basically, it's 4-to-1 leverage. 4-to-1 leverage. Because I can tell you this, if a marketing assistant working 40 hours a week for 50 weeks can't generate more than $25,000 worth of business, we ain't following our own systems. It should generate way more than that. So it's at least 4-to-1 leverage. So, but I didn't want to get into that on the call, Todd, with Jay and some of the other area developers that were on the call, because they're not getting that extra leverage. Only you guys are. Only you guys are getting that extra leverage because you're part of the inside team. And Rick, because Rick and Doug are part of the inside team that get that same dollar for dollar leverage and the same executive assistant leverage because you're part of the inside team. That's the only reason you're getting that extra leverage is because you're part of the inside team and you can literally talk to people and twist their arms because you're part of the inside team. You know what's going on. So I won't be discussing that dynamic with the rest of the people on that call because I don't want to have them feel uncomfortable. But I totally support that you guys get extra. Totally support that if you guys get extra on that side. So think about it: 4-to-1 leverage, 4-to-1 leverage for that. So obviously, if you can get in on the first 10 units with anyone in your area, it's going to be phenomenal, and that continues past the first unit. Just it's the first 10 units, period. So if one of you guys finds some crazy guy who wants to take all 10 units, then you get a lot. And when you look at the offering, you see the most conservative projection I have of the return on investment numbers is, where's the numbers here? The most conservative, 45% cash on cash return per year. The most conservative use of those numbers that I could come up with is 45% cash on cash return. So extremely good. And that's before the 4-to-1. That's face value, 25 grand, the return on the 25 grand. So does that answer your question from 2 weeks ago, Todd?
Yes, that definitely answers that question. Thank you.
Okay, great. And I realize there's one other thing I had saved, and that is the rack card for the Quantum Business Golf Seminar that Sandra put together. If you haven't already done so, take time to reply to all on the inside team email thanking her for her work on this. I thought she did a phenomenal job putting together really quickly with limited input from me. I thought she did a really, really good job. There's definitely some things that we could improve on, but man, oh man, what a fantastic first start as a tool to get that up and running. And I think they're going to have it in 25 golf courses this week. 25 golf courses this week. So John Ashton, if you're listening to this call for the September Nashville, let's talk. And anyone else that wants to come down and play this game. All right.
Can you put her email in the message box for us so we can let her know what a great job?
Yeah, it was in the email that sent the sample.
Okay, I'll get it done.
But she's also reading Jeffrey's emails while Jeffrey's recovering. But if you think it's as hot as I think it's, show her the love. Show her the love. All right. Anybody else? Last chance for this morning. All right. See you in a week on this topic. See you in 15 minutes on financing. All right. Go forth and multiply.
Thanks, everyone.
14 people in a stage 1 call tomorrow. That, by the way, Mark, in 20 years of franchise work, that is a world's record just for commitments in 20 years of franchise work.
Awesome. That means we have a good system.
That means that we have a great system and a great focus on your part getting them numbers there. That is so freaking awesome. For one, because we do weekly stage 1 calls have been a part of my marketing system for a long time. So when you do weekly calls, you don't get a lot of people in 1 week normally, but this is a good testament to your follow through. Way to go, man.
Thanks. Now what we need to do, we can talk sometime about how do we get into the weaker markets.
You bet.
Okay.
Cheerio.